Welcome to the JD Bunkis podcast. We're getting another World Series game in Toronto. Best of three. Your Toronto Blue Jays, 2 games away from a World Series. This team is a bunch of sickos. They get punched in the mouth and they lick their lips and they give it right back. They're the person who says swing first. Swing first. It's amazing. You can't count them out. You absolutely cannot count them out. No George Springer, no problem. Other heroes emerge. And last night, Andres Jimenez, Shane Bieber, Bo Bichette, Chris Bassett, and of course, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Shohei is an incredible player. He's maybe the greatest player to ever step on a baseball field. That's genuinely in play for this guy. He gets on base nine times in a baseball game, 11 straight times in the World Series. And then he goes out there and he's pitching. Gets the DH and the P next to his name. It's astonishing. There's no doubt about it. And sometimes I think you have to step outside of what is just even your fandom of the Toronto Blue Jays and appreciate what it is that you're seeing. Even as he was killing them in Game 3 of this series, there's probably a kernel of you that went, hey, you know what? I did watch something with Shohei Ohtani. As frustrating as it was probably there for you. And that's great. And he should be celebrated. But the only problem surrounding Shohei Ohtani, I think anyways, is that it's so incredible what he's doing that it takes away all of the rest of the oxygen when discussing other stars that are in his purview. If you are having a game and it's Shohei Ohtani, the game becomes all about Shohei Ohtani. It's kind of like we've seen with LeBron. It's about LeBron. It's about LeBron. It's about LeBron. And it's a little bit like Shohei. I've seen the MLB.com or the MLB Twitter account post Shohei Ohtani highlights of him hitting fly balls to the warning track saying that almost went out. That's the level of superstar that he is. That's his level of import to the game in general. And last night was such a sweet moment for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Blue Jays fans because it was Shohei Ohtani pitching. He's throwing a sweeper, and it's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. trailing who takes him yard. Shohei outshined Vladdy in 2021. He took what otherwise would have been a lock for an MVP. And last night, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. put himself in a position where he can take an MVP award away from Shohei. That means a hell of a lot more. And that's one of the beauties of facing a superstar team like the Dodgers, facing a superstar athlete like Shohei Ohtani, is if you're able to win, the championship means more. We can complain about the Dodgers and the way that they've built their team and the amount of spending and the deferrals and the belief that they can just get every single Japanese star because of built-in advantages that other teams just cannot replicate. But if you can find a way to beat Goliath, you get remembered just a little bit differently. And that is the stakes of this World Series. And as good as the Dodgers are, and they are damn good, as well constructed as they are, the thing you saw last night, which is what I was saying going into the game on the pregame show and to finish this pod yesterday, I don't think you can manufacture the connectivity of this Toronto Blue Jays team. You heard Chris Bassett speak last night, or if you did have the opportunity to hear Chris Bassett speak, he's desperately trying not to diminish his former clubs, but he's saying this is the tightest group that they've ever had. And I was even thinking about how every coach in every sport has used the play for the person beside you quote. Hey, play for the man next to you. And if you're ever trying to establish that in this country, coaching youth athletics, what a team to be able to have to showcase what exactly that looks like. Because this is often called an individual sport masquerading as a team sport. And the Blue Jays certainly don't make you feel that way. They certainly feel like a team sport when you watch them play. Again, it's the resiliency of this team, and it's been done to the point where I understand if you're listening to me talk over and over and over again about how resilient they are and how it's one of the calling cards of the team, that it can almost become, hey man, at what point are they just good? I get it. I totally understand that. But yesterday, you're facing Shohei Ohtani. It's in Dodger Stadium. They've got an opportunity to go up 3-1 in the series. You just played until 3 a.m. the night before. You lost your leadoff man. The face of clutch on this Blue Jays team, George Springer, the man who delivered them a win in Game 7 against the Seattle Mariners. You lose him to what everyone believes is an oblique injury. He's hour to hour. You're kind of sitting there. You're hoping. You're waiting. Thinking, hey, maybe, just maybe that this guy is going to be able to play. He doesn't play. They reshuffle the lineup. Bo goes into the DH spot. Nathan Lucas leads off. And you're looking again at that Dodgers All-Star team thinking, oh, at what point is it too many losses? Whenever you talk about the Raptors championship and them beating the Golden State Warriors, there's always the caveat. It's always, some Warriors fan or some NBA fan or some local troll will immediately hit you with the, yeah, but KD was hurt and Clay was hurt, as though Clay didn't play the entire series, but whatever. It always comes with that little jab. You're ready for it. You've prepared yourself for it. And we've got our comebacks like, oh, how many All-Stars is enough for Golden State or blah, 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 whatever. It's incredible to watch the Toronto Blue Jays go up against the LA juggernaut this time around, the California juggernaut. And they're the team that's missing guys. They're the team that's missing their $100 million DH. They're the team that's now missing their prized free agent, maybe in the franchise's history, in George Springer, their leadoff man, one of their most important bats in the lineup. They're playing with Bo Bichette, who is completely compromised and playing on a damaged knee, and who comes up with another big moment. Guy looks like himself at the plate. Again, great adjustment by the Blue Jays, putting him in that DH spot, because now you don't feel like you have to take him out as a defensive replacement. You can leave that bat in the lineup a little bit longer. So that's it. It's just like this group continues to find the silver linings to whatever adversity that they face. And there's never a woe is me with them. There's never an aw shucks kick to the dirt. Again, they just get punched in the mouth, they lick the blood off their lips, and they throw it right back at you. Over and over and over again. And they do not care who is in front of them. They are resilient. It is exhausting, but it is their calling card. Sickos. They refuse to die sickos. So, yeah, last night was incredible for Vladdy. It was incredible for the team. By the way, Blue Jays as a team, though, first time in MLB postseason where a team 4 times has hit a home run that has turned a deficit into a lead. It's the team. It's Andreas Jimenez, who with runners in scoring position in the postseason right now is 7 of 14. He's hitting .500. This is a guy who all year long people were going, again, when I say people, I mean me. I said all season long, I can't believe they went out and got this guy. It cost $100 million. Yeah, platinum glove at second base, but he's an automatic out. This is supposed to be their Pajes, the easy out at the bottom of the lineup, and he's just coming through in massive spots. And, yeah, Chris Bassett turning into this unbelievable leverage reliever who now has pitched 6 2/3 innings with no earned runs, 8 Ks, 1 hit, and 1 walk. And by the way, before we get to our guest, the other takeaway from last night's game, last one, the Shane Bieber trade is officially a success. Yes, you could have made the case that he helped them lock up their position, first in the American League East. Every win mattered. Every guy mattered. Shane Bieber was important for that when they got him at the deadline. He came out and he dealt in his first outing with the Jays. His first appearance at home, he was incredible. I watched him live go toe-to-toe with Freddie Peralta and the Brewers, and he gives up 1 home run, and unfortunately that ends up being too much in a incredible pitcher's duel. But there were some ups and downs to close the season, and there's a reason why he started the postseason as the number 3 starter, and there's a reason why he started this series as the number 4. And there was some uncertainty with this guy, but last night, yet again, he had the quote-unquote good stuff. I really do believe that him striking out Shohei Ohtani twice, after Shohei had gotten on base again 11 straight times in a row, it's always difficult to measure the mystique of it all, like the what happens when you humanize a god of it all. But I think that actually did have an impact. And so when you look at this trade now, I think it's irrefutable that this was a win for the Toronto Blue Jays. Our next guest won a World Series in 2007. He is a host at Foul Territory and, of course, a NESN studio analyst. He is Jonathan Papelbon. What's up, brother? How are we doing? Wow, what a background.
JD, what's happening, brother?
Dude.
Get some sleep?
Yeah, you know what? Yesterday was perfect. They actually finished the ball game on time. I didn't go to bed sad. I didn't go to bed staring at the ceiling, wondering what could have been and whether or not I was going to think about that game for the rest of my life. I thought about it from a positive standpoint, dude. And in fact, I got sleep, but I was up a little bit later because the high of a victory like that resonates with you in kind of a different way. And I was buzzing for a couple of hours telling myself, hey, it's time to go to bed, man. Hey, it's time to stop scrolling and looking at the stats and trying to tinker with the show and taking little screenshots of Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s swing against Shohei Ohtani as Shohei's, doing the look back. It's time to go to bed.
Yeah. It's been a wild start to the World Series, that's for sure. I think we've already gone through a handle of Jack Daniels. Yeah. But, man, I tell you what a great World Series we've got going so far.
Yeah, man, it's been incredible. So I started the show, again, this team is hyper-resilient, and I do want to get into that with you. But last night, they go into the ball game, and they got no George Springer, right? He's out of the lineup. It looks like an oblique issue, and the lineup gets even thinner against this Dodgers team that is unbelievably stacked, right? Just overloaded with talent, overloaded with superstar talent. And Shohei is the dominating storyline of the World Series. He's somebody who had been on base 11 straight times, got on base 9 times in a World Series game in that 18-inning game. And when you have a player so great who does something so unique, I think that it takes some oxygen away from other storylines in a World Series, right? Other players in a World Series. And I'm curious from your vantage point as a guy who played, as a guy who was, an all-star, as a guy who won a World Series, what it means when your team, when your guy has a moment like the one that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. had in that ball game.
So, look, the postseason is a little bit different during the regular season. And when the postseason comes in, you're looking for your leaders to carry you through that season. And those leaders come in many different forms. Mm-hmm. Those leaders may come from Jimenez, who you picked up, who now all of a sudden is raking every day.
Yep.
It may come from a Vladimir Guerrero, who is your true and steady man at the top that everyone looks at. Or it may come from a Scherzer or a Bassett or somebody like that out of nowhere that you did not expect to have. That's the thing about the postseason. The heroes in the postseason are always unexpected because the ones of your Shoheis and your Vladdys, they're going to do what they do. There's no stopping those guys, right? But your heroes come in many different forms, and I think that is what the Toronto Blue Jays have going for them right now. The Dodgers have not had guys step up like the Toronto Blue Jays have. And when you look at this, and I look at the way Vegas looks at these games, because let me tell you something about Vegas. They know a whole lot more than we do. And so when you look at these lines and the way they're going, there's no respect for Toronto. And they know that. And when you're in the postseason, you pull energy and you pull reasons to go and kick somebody's ass from any direction you can. And I think that they're pulling together and doing that. And I've got the Blue Jays in 7. Actually, I've bet them and I've picked them to win in 7. And it's kind of looking that way right now.
Mm. So you feel as though the momentum has clearly swung back to the Jays?
There's no question about it. And the thing is, JD, is how do you keep that momentum? Mm-hmm. Okay? The Blue Jays have to find a way to keep that momentum when the game is over, because the momentum is going to switch. It may switch in the 3rd, or it may switch in the 6th or the 7th. But the momentum and the key to keeping that momentum is to holding that momentum late and winning that ball game. Okay? So that's what the Blue Jays did last night. And, we'll see if they can keep it today. But they're going up against another a guy in Blake Snell who's Cy Young, man. You're going against Cy Young type players, and I know he hasn't won one, but you're going up against Cy Young type pitching in this series. And to me, the Blue Jays have really accepted that challenge, man. They're a team that, I think I heard you earlier saying, they're not afraid to get punched in the mouth and wipe their blood off. That's the type of team they are. That's the type of team they've become. And to me, that was the type of team when I played on with the Red Sox. That's the kind of team we were. And believe it or not, those are the scariest teams to face in the postseason.
Yeah, again, you don't want the guy who you punch in the mouth to look back at you and smile. That's not good. That means you're in trouble. And that kind of has been the Toronto Blue Jays all season long. And I think that a lot of times you hear cliches from athletes when they talk about their teammates, right? Where they go, yeah, we're a tight group and we want to play for each other. These guys continuously go out of their way to talk about how tight the group is. Like Chris Bassett has played a very long time, and he is talking about how this is the tightest group that he's ever played with. And I do think that there is something about this team where, because they love each other so much, because they care about one another so much, there's this added level of desperation that pours out onto the field where they don't want the ride to end.
Yes, and I hate to, because I know everybody's talked about this, mm-hmm. but it really all does go back to signing Vladimir Guerrero to a long-term deal, and that resonating throughout that clubhouse saying, okay, we're going to spend money. Mm-hmm. We're going to get players around this number one guy that we now have. And it just works. I mean, it just works because when you have players that are 2 feet in, and every single player is 2 feet in, it just makes a difference. It allows a team to come together easier. It allows a team to be successful because everybody's in. And I don't care what kind of business you're in. I run a business now that I'm out of baseball, and it's the same. Nothing's changed, man. Mm-hmm. Nothing has changed. The competitiveness is the same. And if you have people that work for you or on your team 2 feet in, and everybody's sold on what product they're selling or what they're going to go out and do each and every night, mm-hmm. it just works. And so that really did make a big difference. And some people say, oh no, you just signed a guy. How does that work? Well, the way I just explained is how it works, right? Yeah. And so now you get to we're getting towards the end of the World Series now, and nothing has changed. Everybody is still 2 feet in, and ownership can really play a part. Mm-hmm. Ownership can play a part in whether or not a team is successful or not. They are not up there just doing expenditures and counting payroll. That's not what happens, right? You have to know the pulse of your team. Mm-hmm. And I think that the Blue Jays ownership and front office, They really know their team, and they know which pieces to move and what pieces to take away and what pieces to trade. And it's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
But they figured it out finally. I truly believe.
No, they did, and you're right, man. It's weird because it always it's one of those things where you always talk about ownership when it's bad, but never really when it's great. And right now, like this Blue Jays team spends in a way that they never had before. It's been basically now since the pandemic where they've been one of the top spending teams in all of baseball. And I do think that when you're talking about 2 feet in, there probably is something to be said for the guys in that clubhouse knowing, hey, you have a contract coming up, even if you're not Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who has already signed the $500 million. Like if you're Bo Bichette, for example, who's a pending free agent, that if you want to be here, if you want to continue playing here, that you're not a mercenary, that they're going to continue to open up the pocketbooks for you, and that you have a real opportunity to stay. It's not, again, no offense, but this isn't now the Milwaukee Brewers where they get bounced and what's the conversation immediately? It's like, hey, they're going to shop Freddie Peralta. Freddie Peralta is probably going to be available in free agency because he's only got a year left, and they're not going to be re-signing this guy. With the Blue Jays, if you're performing here and you want to be here, you got an opportunity to stay with the team. And one of those guys is Shane Bieber. Again, a bit of an up and down postseason for him so far. I would say now 2 really good outings and 2 that kind of left you wanting. Last night, though, he had the good stuff. What did you see from him and the way that he was pitching in that game?
Well, here's the thing with Shane Bieber is he knows how to pitch and has pitchability. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is he's setting up hitters. And he has the couth and the wherewithal to go out there and know what hitters are sitting on, what they're looking at from him, and counteract that. And so he's done a great job of that. He's done a great job of his fastball command, which to me, fastball command is the last thing to come after Tommy John surgery. You usually don't necessarily get that back right away. And so that's really surprised me. His ability to control his fastball has been impeccable. And he doesn't get phased. He doesn't, there's nothing that really, when you see him out there pitching, gets him stressed or gets him to start pitching in a different way or pressing. And when I start pressing, oh, maybe let me try to overthrow this ball. You don't see that out of him. And so in the playoffs is a time where you really have to focus on that and make it one pitch at a time.
So Chris Bassett has become quickly one of the stories of the postseason for the Jays. Their bullpen through pretty much from August on was a ton of question marks. And there has been that throughout the postseason where they've leaned on Louis Varland in basically every single game, and it's been mixed results. Sir Anthony Dominguez, again, he's told to pitch around Shohei Ohtani the night before. Their big prized free agent ticket, late inning guy, throws a middle fastball to Shohei that leaves the yard. Again, some unsung heroes from that pen, some guys who have stepped up like Mason Fluharty. But Bassett, when he joined the postseason roster, like this is a guy who was not on the ALDS roster. He joined them for the CS. And when he first came in, it was in mop-up duty. He was there to pitch, basically to close out a ball game. No one was thinking, hey, this guy's going to be high leverage. This guy's going to be an 8th inning guy, a 7th inning guy for you in closeout game 7s. And all of a sudden, boom, he is. It's now 6 2/3 inning pitched for Bassett, 8 strikeouts, no earned runs, and only a hit and 1 walk. What is making him effective to you right now in this role?
Well, I think that when you go from a starter to the bullpen, the one thing that's making him effective and the one thing that will make you effective is knowing yourself, knowing your pitches, knowing when to throw them and what counts and the highest probabilities where you can get outs, okay? And so what he's doing is he's going to the bullpen now, and he's starting to warm up. Once he starts warming up, he may start warming up with 5 pitches or all 6 of his pitches. I think actually, what does he have? Doesn't he have like 8 pitches?
He honestly has, I think, 8 pitches.
Yeah.
Calls his own game like he's a freak.
Right. So what he's doing is he's going in with those 8 pitches and he's starting to warm up and he's testing all of them. He has to warm up differently than your normal reliever because he needs more time to get these pitches ready to see which ones are working and which ones aren't. Because there's some days where you're split. It may not be working at all, or your fastball command is off. So you have to find a command pitch. Is what pitch can I go get a strike with? So he's doing that, but he's leaving the pen. And once he goes out to pitch and he takes the mound, he's really taking the mound with 3 of those, 3 good ones, his 3 best ones. And he's knowing that which ones are my 3 best ones. And he feels confident in those. And so he's using those. And look, he's pumping it up a little bit harder.
Yeah, he is.
He's pumping it up a little bit harder, and he knows that.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing that gives him a little extra added juice is he knows he can go out there and maybe give a little tick more on my fastball or my split or have a little bit more life, but knowing that I'm going to only have an inning or 2.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that the stuff that you're saying makes sense, right? A guy with that many pitches to be able to go into the bullpen and effectively execute 3 of them makes you a really dangerous pitcher, makes you somebody that it's very difficult to settle in on and square something up. But when you're talking about modern day bullpens, it's velo, 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 velo. Like, who do we have that throws the ball hard? Hey, can we get somebody who throws the ball harder? That's, again, why they went out and got Sir Anthony Dominguez, who can hit 98 on the gun at the deadline. That's why they went out and got Louis Varland, who hits 100 on the gun. They want guys who can pump fastballs for strikes, who can blow by the best hitters in the game. And so with Bassett, I totally get what you're saying in terms of the stuff that's playing and the way that it's working. But there is also that added element with him of, and you had it, of intimidating presence to close a game. Like somebody with a real attitude that's out there that you don't feel like if he walks a guy is going to change the way that he throws pitches. If he gets into a jam is going to suddenly turn into a shell of himself. And man, how many times have we seen it in the game, right? Where the moment just looks too big for guys. How important for Chris Bassett is it like that he comes out there and he establishes that attitude of a late inning guy where, don't worry, this guy's not going to get shook.
Yeah, to me, it's the number one thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's and you hit the nail on the head. It is the number one thing that you have to have, especially in the postseason, right? Mm-hmm. If you don't have a sack of nuts on you and you're not convicted in your pitches or you're not convicted in the approach and the swings that you're going to take into play, you're done. You're cooked because you're going up against now the cream of the crop. The cream has risen to the top. And so you're at a point now where it's no holds bar. And if you're someone like a Chris Bassett that has this ability, not only does it transcend in the rest of the bullpen, but along with the rest of the team into the dugout even, because guys are looking at this as him as one of the leaders of this team, because he is, regardless of what his role is now. He's still a leader on this team, in my opinion. And guys are looking at this saying, you know what? He's doing it. I can do it. And I'm going to follow in suit. And when you have a bullpen, right? A bullpen is a very tight-knit group. And so there's all inner competitions within the bullpen. And so when the first guy goes out and he throws up a 0 or he punches 2 out and gets you back in the dugout quick, the next guy has to do the same. And that's almost understood within the bullpen. And so I think he's setting a great presence and setting a great tone in that bullpen. Yeah,
he's been a calming presence for everybody. Again, it's huge that whenever you're trying to map out these Blue Jays games, just based on, again, the way that the setup guys have pitched, it becomes a little bit more difficult. Like, again, Varland has thrown so much. They've seen him now so many times. You get a little spooked. And to your point about Bassett, I think that when you combine those two things, that is what's making him so special, is that even if you see him a few times, he's got so many pitches that he can keep you off kilter. But then he's also got that attitude and the confidence to go out and execute that resonates to the rest of the group when he goes and does it. And again, you're feeling it through the TV screen right now. And I think something similar has happened with Jeff Hoffman, who gave up more home runs this year than any Blue Jays closer in their team history. And coming into the postseason, everyone was looking at him going, I don't know, man. If the leash for him to stay the closer is short. Like if he blows one in the DS, are they going to go back to him the next night? Now here he is coming out and giving them 6 outs more than once in the postseason. His stuff has looked great. He's been crisp, and he's been like a bona fide closer. And how big last night for you, though, was that he didn't have to go into that baseball game after throwing 2 innings the night before.
Oh, look, huge.
Yeah.
Huge. And also, too, the Dodgers screwed up by letting them win this game. And look, the Dodgers, to me, you could say the almighty, big and powerful Dodgers, they're barely in this, could be barely in this series, and are tinkering on, a possible game where, like, you flip this and the Blue Jays now have an advantage. The 18-inning game easily could have gone either way.
Yep.
Okay. And now the Blue Jays win last night. The Blue Jays are in a good spot now. Hoffman didn't have to pitch.
Yep.
You got some guys some rest. I think right now the Dodgers are against the wall more than the Toronto Blue Jays, my friend.
Well, if you look at it from just the home field standpoint, Dodgers lose tonight, and the Jays are going to have 2 opportunities to close you out at home in front of what is unquestionably the wildest crowd in baseball right now. And
I love Toronto's crowd, man.
Dude, how could you not? It's insane. I've been to every postseason game, home game, except for one, and like the game, the 6th inning game 1 of this series, that is as loud of a stadium I've ever been in. People are singing songs. They're getting loud. Everybody's on their feet for the entirety of the game. And I just think it would be impossible as a player not to feed off of that. In fact, the only thing that I worry about with the players sometimes is that, they get too horned up in those moments where they're going, oh my God, this place is so juiced. You don't want to make a mistake because you're trying too hard. But that atmosphere, man, it's like I don't want it to go away. And part of the reason why I'm so thrilled that it's coming back for Game 6 is that you can't replicate the drug that is that stadium right now. It's like nothing else.
Yeah, to be honest with you, JD, it was one of my favorite places to play.
Mm-hmm.
And when I left the Phillies, I actually had an opportunity to go to Toronto, and I still kicked myself in the ass. Mm-hmm. Instead, I went to the Nationals, and I really kicked myself in the ass for that. I probably should have went to Toronto, but it's all hindsight. But it's a great place to play. The bullpens are like in the stadium almost, like with the fans. I would have loved that, and the atmosphere to me is as good as a Fenway Park or a Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, no, it gets unbelievably loud in there, man. It's nuts. It's absolute nuts when you're watching it live. And again, you absolutely feel it through the screen. Last one for you. You've been generous with the time. So Savage goes again tonight, and one of the big storylines heading into the series from like a detail standpoint was the Dodgers had only faced 3% of their pitches were the splitter. And Savage, that's how he profiles. He's a guy that they can't really put in the traject machine because he throws from such a high arm slot. He's a very unique player. And again, you have the advantage when you're the team that has the pitcher that the other team hasn't seen. 4 times this postseason, a team has seen him the second time, or not postseason, throughout the course of this year. And he's done well 3 out of those outings. The Mariners, however, did get to him. What do you think of tonight's matchup in terms of the Dodgers and their ability to hit him a little harder, having seen him already in Game 1?
Well, the advantage, it starts to slide more towards the hitter, but I wouldn't necessarily call it an advantage. Yes, they have seen him, but to me, if Trey Savage is on his game, he is going to be tough to beat. Plain and simple. If his fastball stays down in the zone and complements his split, which is down in the zone, and he throws them off of each other, he'll be successful just because he's that nasty as a pitcher and it's coming from that angle. Now, if the fastball starts to ride up a little bit and get more up in the zone, and the what he throws to me is a weird slider. His slider almost goes down more, or his sweeper almost goes down more, and rotationally, there's not as much spin rotationally. But if that starts getting up in the zone and hanging and spinning and not breaking towards a plane, he'll be in trouble. But if he, like I said, if he's on his game, we'll have a great game tonight, and he'll pitch through the 5th or the 6th inning and have the Toronto Blue Jays in a spot to win tonight. Yeah. And regardless of how many times the Blue Jays have seen him tonight.
Yeah. No, and listen, would you rather be the Dodgers, who are facing the kid for the second time but didn't really hit him hard and had a bunch of whiffs, or would you rather be the Blue Jays and Blake Snell? All due credit to him. Like, again, when I think about playoff performers, Blake Snell is there. Like, he is absolute nails. There's no doubt about it. I'm sure he'll make some adjustments heading into the start, and he'll pitch well. But Jay's got to him. Jay's rung him up for a ton of runs, and they've done well against guys who throw from the left side. So, yeah, if you're asking me who I'd rather be, I'd rather be the team that hit the guy than the team that was whiffing on the guy. Again, Jonathan Papelbon, 07 World Series champ, host at Foul Territory, and NESN studio analyst. I really appreciate the time today, man. This was a treat.
Okay, JD, I enjoyed talking ball with you, man, and I got the Jays in 7, so let's go Jays.
Let's go Jays. Let's go Jays. Still getting a little disrespect on the gambling lines. They were, I think, plus 170, like plus 175, somewhere in that range going into yesterday's game. Don't think they need the added motivation. Again, that's one of the beauties of this team is, yeah, okay, billboard material, a reason to coalesce, right? That's why you fear those kinds of quotes. That's why you fear that the jinxes or the Ryan Merritt shaking in his boots. Dodgers aren't exactly team trash talk. It's a lot of pretty humble, likable guys like Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Teoscar Hernandez, Shohei Ohtani. Not a murderer's row of dudes who are going to give you a tough quote that the Blue Jays are going to put up on the clubhouse wall. But they don't need it. They don't need external motivation. They don't need somebody to say something. Like, they actually are the nobody believes in us team. And when do you hear them say that? Every team loves doing that. Remember how insufferable the Patriots were every single year, going to the Super Bowls over and over and trying to play up the underdog angle? The Chiefs are doing it right now. They have done it. Oh, you wrote us off. Okay, ugh. You're in the national spotlight. You're going to have conversations about you when your team dips a little bit. Nobody's saying that you're the underdog. Teams love embracing that. Philadelphia Eagles wore that stupid dog mask around. Everybody was wearing that dog mask in their locker room. Like, that's what teams do. When you're the nobody believes in us team, you play that up amongst your group as a way of keeping it tight, as a way of staying, I don't know, some added form of motivation. And they are the nobody believes in us Blue Jays. I've called them that a million times. They are the you can't kill Toronto Blue Jays. And yet, when do they play that up? How often do you get a quote from the Blue Jays of nobody believes in us, blah, blah? It's always about the internal belief of the group, how much they get along with one another and how much they want to play for one another. And that's kind of what I'm saying off the top here is the resiliency stuff can obviously be a little, I don't think it's even nauseating because I think that's almost a straw man because who's really fighting against that narrative, I guess. But that it can become repetitive at the very least. But with these guys, part of the reason why they are resonating with fans is not just the success. It's the authenticity in which they play for one another. It's the divergence from what we've seen with some of the other teams in this market. You can think on that one. It's true. Like, these guys love playing for one another. They love playing together. And I think we all love watching them. Again, you can subscribe to this podcast on Apple or on Spotify. It really helps the show. If you're a new listener, please do that. Especially considering I don't know how I'm going to line this up going into the weekend, but obviously there is definitely emergency pod potential. So that'll only be on podcast streams. So please subscribe to the podcast. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at JD Bunkis. Reach out anytime. Like I said, always love reading the DMs, love seeing all the excitement around the win last night. Love seeing what people are saying. Take a little feedback as well. And yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, leave a thumbs up, leave a comment, do all those things. Share it with a friend. One win tonight, and you get 2 chances at home to win a World Series. Unbelievable. Truly, truly, truly unbelievable. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back, and I am going to spend a few minutes talking about one of those other teams. I really love John Schneider's comments on the Vladdy home run last night. Thought he articulated it beautifully. And I started the show today with the Vladdy versus Shohei stuff because it's clearly there. And that moment did matter. In fact, if the Jays do go on to win a World Series, there's like a small collection of photos that you will have that have left a pretty strong mark. Obviously, the Springer dinger. For me, I do really love the image of Chris Bassett double fist pump walking off the mound in Game 7 against the Mariners. But the shot of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Shohei Ohtani both staring at his home run ball. Whew. Pretty sexy stuff. That's a pretty sexy one. You're that photographer? Congrats. Good job. You probably slept well that night. But he talked about how it isn't Shohei versus Vladdy, that is an easy narrative to do, that it is the Blue Jays versus the Dodgers. And this stat exemplified that the most to me, which is, teams that have scored 4+ runs in an inning in the postseason so far. It's been done 21 times. 9 of those times have been the Blue Jays. Almost half. They really do have, and you felt it yesterday. And obviously, there have been disappointing moments coming off of that 18-inning game where it felt like they couldn't string hits together and they felt helpless. But that was in large part due to the fact that they had removed so many key players from the lineup that you did feel like, okay, well, obviously there's going to be a point of diminishing returns. That asking Tyler Heineman to be the hero when he hasn't played in a postseason game, and yes, had a good regular season, but that's it's a tall order. Asking Miles Straw to be the hero, great season, tall order. But when it's been the regulars, when it's been the real group, the actual bats for this team, 9 times this postseason where they've scored 4 or more runs, and you feel that build, the way that they put pressure on opposing staffs, and the way that they just pass the baton off to one another and continue to, again, pile on runs and make it so that you can remove some stress from your life. Also, to that effect, the manager takes a lot of heat when things go wrong. I have been very critical of John Schneider in Game 5 of the Mariners series, and I thought he got outmanaged in Game 3 of this one. I didn't like the Barger pull. I thought that it was a little short-sighted and it felt a little panicky. I think at times there have been certainly questions as to when he has gone to the bullpen and if it was the right time to do so. And last night, John Schneider pulled all the right strings at all the right times. And he deserves a lot of credit for that. And talking about like the bounce back mentality of this team and the way that they respond to adversity, one thing that does need to be said about John Schneider is that he has done the same thing. He's had some tough moments and then immediately course corrected and done the right thing. And yesterday, I was dead wrong. I thought, oh man, do not go out there. Like when he went out for the first mound visit with Shane Bieber, I thought that was a mistake because now it's in his head and you're kind of maybe throwing him off a little bit. And then he gives up a single. Immediately, Schneider goes out and gets him, brings in Mason Fluharty, and it was the right thing to do. And Fluharty shuts it down. And Schneider, in a game that had so many cool stories, whether it was Jimenez, whether it was Bo Bichette again on one leg coming up with a huge, huge, huge hit, whether it was the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. home run, whether it was Chris Bassett, he had a really good game. He made great lineup adjustments. Even the pinch hit for Ty France was the right thing to do, and it worked out. And, man, you want to talk about sneaky, huge moments in that game. Jimenez getting back to the bag and his challenge to overturn that, massive. Maybe the biggest spot in the game. Jimenez gets picked off there, and Ty France grinds out. The inning's over. They don't pile on those runs. It's, oh, my God, I can't believe they only got one there. Spooky, scary stuff. Leafs played last night, and because they started at 6 o'clock, which is what they should be doing, tonight they're at 7:30 against Columbus. I'm going to guess that's going to be the lowest rated Blue Jays game in quite some time. Maybe their team history. Almost like directly across from the Blue Jays, so I'm not going to see too much of that until tomorrow morning when I'll go through the tape. Nice win for the Leafs last night. Really big game for Max Domi, whose on-off stats were ugly to start the season. And he comes through with a huge spot, which they need him to, man. Like, they need him to. Max Domi has to be a contributor on this team. He's got too big of a role and too big of a salary. He can't just be the third-line center where, hey, did they have good shifts and did they have one good game out of 4? 25% of the time, are they chipping in with a little bit of offense? It's got to be a little bit more than that. He's a guy who came into the season with the expectation that he could give you somewhat of a replacement for Mitch Marner's production by playing up on the top line. I also thought pretty sneakily a huge night for Matthew Nyes. Signed a big contract. Leafs, there's like discussion right now about the goaltending. I think Stolarz is playing too much. Hard not to draw that conclusion for a guy who has not been a regular goaltender in the NHL, who has had this kind of workload, and he has a dip in effectiveness and not have the correlation be the causation. Maybe he finds his level. Maybe he returns to form, but the last few games have been spotty. But some of the other guys that have kind of gone under the radar in the discussion around this team, I would put Matthew Nyes pretty high at the top. He does a few things that show up when you're watching it that don't on the score sheet, whether it's the forecheck or the physicality and his presence in front of the net. That's all very nice. No one was saying that he had to skyrocket past his production from a year ago. But when you sign a deal like that and you are called a unicorn by people like me, you got to sort of act like it. You got to sort of play like it. And when the team was struggling for offense and struggling to find the physical identity that was promised to the fan base, Matthew Nyes, to me, is pretty pivotal part of that. So it was very nice for him to have a big game. Lastly, I will say this about when I'm watching the Leafs right now. I understand that 500 is an incredible milestone, and no one isn't going to celebrate it for Tavares, but there is a real exhaustion for regular season milestones with the Maple Leafs. There just is. And right now, coming into the season where they're being superimposed against this Blue Jays team, and yeah, they're getting a little bit of the spotlight drawn away from them, but also there is a spotlight in terms of, well, what do we like about this Jays team that we don't about this Leafs team? I really want the Tavares thing to just be resolved, get it over with, celebrate it, because any even little mention of regular season milestones for the Toronto Maple Leafs, I'm sorry. I can't, I just have to tell the truth. I'm exhausted by it. We've seen enough of it. Game 5 tonight. Go Blue Jays.